It began, as many cosmic mysteries do, not with the roar of discovery, but with silence. A faint dip in starlight, a whisper in the data, the barest tremor of numbers buried inside an observatory's nightly stream. At first, it looked ordinary, one more planetary candidate passing in front of its star. But as the curves repeated, as the light bent and dimmed in perfect rhythm, the truth became undeniable. Something out there was circling a distant sun, something vast. The follow-up scans brought astonishment. No rocky terrain, no dry ridges reflecting heat. The planet's signature was smooth, polished, mirror-like. An ocean. Not oceans, plural, but oceans singular. One unbroken surface of water stretching across an entire world. It glimmered in the telescope's capture like spilled ink lit by fire, a restless mirror shining back from 40 light-years away. On Earth, oceans are cradled by continents, their waves pressed by land. This world had no such boundary. Its sea was endless, rolling, bottomless, falling downward for thousands of kilometers. No mountains broke the surface. No islands reached up to scatter the waves. From horizon to horizon, it was water alone. An exile from geological balance, a planet that should not have survived the violence of its birth. Scientists compared it to myths, to primordial seas from the oldest human stories. A planet caught in perpetual tide. The equations should have collapsed it long ago, dragging its water into vapor, or locking it beneath ice. Yet there it was, circling its sun with measured grace, poised exactly within the band of warmth where liquid could persist. Chance alone seemed too fragile an answer. The first spectra came, and with them unease. Gases traced in the light revealed oxygen. Abundant, almost excessive. Earth carries oxygen only because of life, the endless labor of plants, algae, and microbes across eons. Without them, it would vanish, swallowed by chemistry, dissolved into stone. But this planet had no land, no forests, no soil for roots to take hold. Its oxygen seemed to pour endlessly from beneath the waves. What mechanism could sustain such abundance? Was it geological venting, a cycle unknown to Earth? Or was it something else, something stirring within those unseen depths? One researcher described it as staring at a mirror that refused to stay still. The more they refined their readings, the more the numbers shifted, as if the planet was adjusting itself under observation. Every new pass revealed something different. More oxygen, then less, then more again. Almost like breath. For weeks, teams argued. Some said it was an illusion of chemistry, an unstable balance unique to a water world. Others whispered theories they did not wish published, that oceans, left to themselves, might not stay inert. That water, given enough time, might remember how to move with intention. The press called it the Blue Mirror. Headlines painted it as paradise, a world of endless waves, an Eden of oceans. But within research rooms and silent conference halls, the mood was not paradise. It was dread, because nothing about this planet aligned with the neat models of planetary formation. It was too perfect, too balanced, too alive in its numbers. And when the last of the initial observations were processed, one detail stood out above the rest. A spectral line that didn't belong. Faint, repeating, modulated at intervals not seen in natural chemistry. Pulse, not constant, not random. As if the ocean was whispering. The scientists stared at the repeating mark, unease spreading in the silence. For the first time the question arose, not what this ocean world could teach us about habitability, but what it might already be hiding. The part closes here, with that single haunting detail. A water planet that should not exist, and a signal that should not be there. The first probes fell like silent seeds into the atmosphere, vanishing beneath gray-blue vapors before piercing through to the ocean below. Their descent was tracked in bursts of telemetry, pressure, temperature, chemical balance. At first, the numbers comforted the researchers. Hydrogen and methane, the fingerprints of a familiar chemistry. Ammonia, faint but present, drifting like shadow in the readings. These were expected, predictable, safe. But safety did not last long. Hours into their dive, The probes returned anomalies no equation could tame. Signals of light, sharp, clean pulses, rising from beneath the ocean's skin. Not scattered reflection. Not random scattering from starlight through mist. These were sources in motion, ascending through the abyss. At first they seemed like the bioluminescence of deep-sea life, something Earth knew well. Jellies, squids, unseen creatures that bloom like lanterns in blackness. Yet patterns soon emerged that no current or tide could explain. The pulses were too regular, timed in cycles. They spread outward in rings, converging, then repeating again as if following choreography. The feeds from multiple probes, cross-referenced, revealed even more. The lights were not isolated. They were clustered, repeating from different depths, scattered across vast distances yet bound to the same rhythm. And when one sequence dimmed, another flared, echoing it in reply like call and response. It was no longer possible to call it coincidence. The lights behaved less like isolated organisms and more like a system. Design. The analysts debated furiously. Could these be natural vents, releasing energy in bursts? Could mineral plumes refract sunlight into illusions of order? Some argued for simple geology wearing a mask of complexity. Others stared at the data in silence, unable to ignore what their instincts whispered. This was not chaos. This was structure. And yet, structure alone did not disturb them most. It was the way the lights bent around the probes, as though acknowledging their arrival. One probe recorded a series of bursts mirroring its own descending beacon, flickering back in uncanny imitation, as if something below had chosen to repeat it. From orbit, the transmission appeared like stars blooming beneath the waves, constellations written into liquid blackness. It wasn't a sea glittering at random. It was a surface alive with memory, alive with response. The narration lingers here, on that quiet, unnerving thought. Perhaps this world does not simply host life. Perhaps the entire ocean is part of the life itself, an organism without edges, stretching from surface to abyss. Or perhaps something within it is speaking, not in sound, not in words, but in light. The probes drifted deeper, their signals thinning, their lifespans short in such crushing depths. Yet the ocean continued to bloom, pulsing with unearthly rhythm, like an eye slowly opening in the dark. And far above, the scientists on Earth sat in silence, watching those impossible constellations rise from a sea without end. From orbit, the water world appeared serene, a glassy sphere of silver blue, but new satellite data told another story. The currents that moved across its surface refused the logic of physics. They did not flow randomly, as winds and tides should. They curved, spiraled, and arced in ways that seemed deliberate. Each orbit revealed the same unsettling detail. As satellites passed above, the spirals would shift, subtle but undeniable, tracking their path across the planet's skin. The ocean, vast and endless, appeared to move in awareness of being observed. The researchers dismissed the notion at first. Instrument error, misinterpreted feedback. But the spiral formations returned, orbit after orbit, until coincidence could no longer explain them. The waves rose as if following the satellites with eyes the size of continents. Then came the probe's final transmissions. Most of the data had degraded into static, the crushing depths erasing their signals. Yet when analysts ran the fragments through filtering algorithms, images began to appear. Not photographs, not video, more like impressions. Shapes, echoed in data, repeating like memories embedded in noise. Fractals, spirals, vortices, and within them, unsettling patterns. Curves that mirrored the geometry of sight itself. Eye-like forms, staring upward from beneath the waves. The realization settled slowly, not as a single conclusion, but as a tide rising in the minds of the observers. This was not a biosphere in the way Earth understood it. This was not an ocean hosting life. The planet itself might be the life. Its waters could be thought, storms breath, tides circulation. And the fractal eyes staring upward were not accidents of fluid mechanics, but something deeper, something watching back. In the quiet control rooms of Earth, surrounded by screens and printouts, the scientists felt the weight of an ancient reversal. Humanity was no longer the one peering into the dark, asking if it was alone. Out there, on a world of endless water, a consciousness might already have found its gaze fixed on us. And the ocean did not blink. The mission ended not with a revelation, but with a blackout. One moment, the data poured in, streams of spectral maps, pulses of light from a world of endless ocean. The next, silence. Terminals went dark, records sealed, transmissions redirected to networks no one could access. Officially, the project had been terminated. Unofficially, it had been buried. But silence has its own echoes. Weeks later, in coastal observatories far from classified channels, anomalies began to appear. Small, almost dismissible. Instruments measuring the spectral scatter of Earth's oceans detected faint, rhythmic patterns. Lines of light that mirrored the pulses once seen rising from the exoplanet. Not random noise. Not solar interference. Exact repetition. The patterns surfaced across the globe. In the Pacific, in the Atlantic, in frozen Arctic shelves where human presence was scarce. And every time they appeared, they matched the alien rhythms with uncanny precision, as though the oceans themselves had joined in a song no one had taught them. For one scientist, who had held fragments of the water world's raw feed before it vanished into black-budget silence, the recognition was immediate. He knew the signals. He had seen them in the planet's deep bioluminescent spirals. And now he saw them here, on Earth. A thought emerged. Quiet, inevitable, undeniable. Water was never ours alone. It flowed in comets, in moons, in exoplanets wrapped in endless seas. It was the galaxy's oldest traveler, shared across stars, drifting in cosmic cycles long before Earth was born. If the water world was alive, then it was never isolated. And if it signaled, then perhaps all water did. Oceans were not separate. They were connected, nodes in a vast and ancient network. The final realization arrived not with fear, but with the weight of recognition. The scientists had not discovered a distant alien life. They had uncovered something older, something that had always been here. When humanity looked into that ocean world and thought it had found the unknown, it was mistaken. It had not been a discovery, had been a reunion. And the sea, vast and unbroken, was still listening.